It took exactly 3 patches. 3 Velcro patches ripped from the uniforms of elite FBI SWAT team members before Kash Patel would step off his private jet during a manhunt, while agents on the ground scrambled to locate a suspect who had just shot conservative activist Charlie Kirk. The FBI director sat on the tarmac, refusing to disembark because his raid jacket didn't have the right insignia. This wasn't protocol. This wasn't security. This was vanity. And it was just the beginning of what FBI agents would come to call the most embarrassing tenure in Bureau history. December 2025, FBI headquarters, Washington, D.C. Career agents huddled in break rooms, speaking in hushed tones about their director. Not about his lack of law enforcement experience, not about his political loyalty to Trump, but about something far more damaging to morale. Kash Patel had turned the FBI into his personal lifestyle brand, and agents had given him a nickname that captured their disgust perfectly: the MakeAWishDirector. The nickname came from a senior FBI executive, Christopher O'Leary, who told MSNBC in December what agents across the Bureau had been whispering for months. Patel was using his position not to chase criminals or protect national security, but to fulfill his wildest personal dreams. Flying his musician girlfriend around on the FBI's Gulfstream jet, ordering a fleet of luxury BMWs to replace the Bureau's standard vehicles, demanding to be on camera for every significant arrest, and building a personal brand that had nothing to do with law enforcement and everything to do with celebrity. But the jacket incident was what broke the camel's back. The story emerged in a 115-page report from current and former FBI agents that became public in early December. The details were so specific, so petty, so absurd that even Patel's defenders struggled to spin them, and they revealed something far more troubling than one man's vanity. They showed an FBI director more concerned with his image than the mission. The incident happened in Utah shortly after Charlie Kirk, the conservative activist and Turning Point USA founder, was shot in what authorities initially believed was an assassination attempt. Patel flew to the scene on the FBI's private jet, ostensibly to oversee the manhunt, but when the plane landed, Patel refused to get off. The reason? He wanted an FBI raid jacket. Not just any raid jacket, a specific size medium jacket with specific Velcro patches attached. The problem was that the FBI personnel at the airport had only large and extra-large jackets available. Standard protocol would have been for Patel to either wear an oversized jacket or proceed without one. After all, agents were in the middle of an active manhunt for a would-be assassin. Time mattered. Lives potentially hung in the balance. But Patel remained on the jet, insisting on a medium-sized jacket that fit his exact specifications. FBI personnel scrambled. They eventually located a female agent whose medium-sized jacket could work. She was ordered to give up her jacket for the director, but the humiliation didn't end there. When Patel examined the medium jacket, he noticed it lacked certain unit-specific Velcro patches that he wanted to display. So FBI SWAT team members were ordered to remove patches from their own uniforms and attach them to Patel's borrowed jacket. Only then, after significant delay during an active investigation, did the FBI director deign to step off his plane. Patel denied the story, calling it 100% false. In an interview with Fox News' Laura Ingraham, he claimed he was honored to wear the jacket and that wearing unit-specific badges was done with pride. But the specificity of the agent's account, corroborated by multiple sources, made Patel's denial ring hollow. And it fit a pattern of behavior that had been building since he took office in February 2025. The jacket incident wasn't isolated. It was emblematic of how Patel approached his role as FBI director. As a performance, a photo opportunity, a chance to build his personal brand rather than lead the nation's premier law enforcement agency. According to the December report and multiple sources interviewed by Axios and other outlets, Patel had instituted an unusual requirement across the Bureau. Field offices were instructed to notify him in advance of any noteworthy arrests so he could be present for the cameras. This wasn't standard practice. Previous FBI directors maintain institutional distance from field operations, allowing career agents to do their jobs without political interference or grandstanding. But Patel wanted to be on television, and every significant arrest was an opportunity for screen time. Agents reported being told that if Patel showed up to an arrest, which wasn't guaranteed despite his demands for notification, they should avoid engaging with him. The director's presence was purely performative. The raid jacket had become Patel's signature look. Photos from throughout 2025 showed him rarely appearing without an FBI windbreaker, even in situations where such attire was inappropriate or unnecessary. Sources told Axios that the constant jacket wearing was rubbing staff to the wrong way. It wasn't about operational necessity. It was about image. Patel wanted to look like he was running operations, even when he was simply posing for photos. But the jacket obsession and media hunger were just the visible symptoms of a deeper problem. Patel was using FBI resources as his personal luxury travel service. Throughout 2025, he repeatedly took the FBI's Gulfstream jet on trips that had nothing to do with bureau business and everything to do with his personal life. His girlfriend, Alexis Wilkins, a singer, frequently accompanied him on these flights. Multiple sources confirmed that Patel used the FBI plane to attend Wilkins concerts and to travel for personal vacations. When questioned about this use of taxpayer-funded aircraft, Patel's response was telling, "I'm entitled to a personal life. Technically, FBI directors are required to use government aircraft for security reasons. But the spirit of that requirement is to protect the director during official travel, not to provide luxury jet service for personal entertainment." Previous directors had carefully limited personal use of FBI planes, understanding the optics and ethics involved. Patel showed no such restraint. The spending didn't stop at jet fuel. In what MSNBC reported as one of the most tone-deaf decisions of his tenure, Patel ordered a fleet of 4 luxury armored BMWs to replace the Chevrolet Suburbans traditionally used by FBI directors. The BMWs were top-of-the-line models, significantly more expensive than the standard vehicles. When questioned about the expenditure, Patel actually bragged about saving FBI money on other matters, seemingly oblivious to the contradiction. The BMW purchase became emblematic of Patel's approach to leadership, personal luxury framed as operational necessity. He wanted to ride in style, and he found a way to justify it using bureau funds. Never mind that Chevrolet Suburbans had served FBI directors for decades without incident. Never mind that the Bureau was facing budget constraints that had forced the elimination of 1,900 positions since 2023. Kash Patel wanted BMWs, so Kash Patel got BMWs. The MakeAWishDirector nickname captured all of this perfectly. A Make-A-Wish child gets to fulfill their dreams, meet celebrities, visit special places, experience things they've always wanted. Patel, agents observed bitterly, was treating the FBI directorship the same way, as an opportunity to live out every fantasy he'd ever had about being a powerful law enforcement figure. Private jets? Check. Luxury cars? Check. TV appearances? Check. Cool tactical gear? Check. The actual work of running the FBI, that seemed to be someone else's problem. The professional incompetence extended beyond vanity. In November, Patel announced that Charlie Kirk's shooter had been arrested. A full day before the arrest actually happened. It was a significant error that suggested either Patel was being fed incorrect information by his staff, or he was so eager to take credit that he jumped the gun on an announcement. Either explanation reflected poorly on his leadership. The premature announcement came just weeks after Patel had already faced intense criticism over his handling of the Kirk shooting investigation. When the attack first occurred, Patel was allegedly in the middle of a podcast recording with Katie Miller, a conservative commentator, and refused to interrupt the session despite the urgency of the situation. By the time he engaged with the investigation, critical hours had passed. 2 people were dead and 9 injured, and the suspect remained at large. Patel's priority had been his media appearance, not the manhunt. Former FBI officials and current agents spoke to reporters on condition of anonymity about the degradation of bureau culture under Patel's leadership. One 20-year veteran told colleagues in an email that was later leaked, "We're not a law enforcement agency anymore. We're a reality TV show, and Patel is the star who thinks everything exists to make him look good." Another agent described the environment as demoralized and rudderless, with career professionals feeling sidelined, while Patel focused on social media presence and political loyalty. The social media obsession was another source of frustration. Patel maintained an extremely active presence on X, formerly Twitter, and regularly posted updates about FBI operations, often with too much detail, too quickly, and sometimes inaccurately. FBI officials told reporters they were concerned that Patel's posting habits were disclosing operational information that could compromise investigations or endanger agents. But Patel seemed more concerned with his follower count and engagement metrics than with operational security. Conservative commentators who had initially supported Patel's nomination began publicly questioning his performance. Tucker Carlson, who had praised Patel's confirmation as representing a needed shakeup of the FBI, criticized the director's focus on dumb Twitter shit instead of serious law enforcement work. After the premature arrest announcement regarding Kirk's shooter, Carlson asked on his show, "Is this the guy we want running the FBI? Someone who can't even wait 24 hours to verify information before announcing it to the world?" The criticism from the right was particularly damaging because Patel's entire value proposition had been his loyalty to Trump and his willingness to pursue the president's enemies. If he couldn't even maintain support from MAGA media figures, what was the point of his appointment? And if Trump-friendly commentators were calling him incompetent, how much longer would the president stand by him? The Hoover Building controversy added another dimension to Patel's chaotic tenure. In September 2024, before his confirmation, Patel had appeared on a podcast and promised that on his first day as FBI director, he would shut down the FBI Hoover Building on day 1 and reopen it the next day as a museum of the deep state. He claimed he would take the 7,000 people who worked in the building and send them across America to go and chase criminals. It was classic Patel, a bold, media-friendly promise that showed complete ignorance of how government bureaucracy actually works. You can't just shut down a federal headquarters building overnight and convert it to a museum. And dispersing 7,000 employees across the country would be a logistical, budgetary, and operational nightmare that would take years to plan and execute. But on December 26, 2025, Patel announced he had accomplished what he framed as a major victory: the permanent closure of the Hoover Building. The FBI would relocate to the Ronald Reagan Building and International Trade Center on Pennsylvania Avenue. Patel claimed this would save billions of dollars compared to the previously planned construction of a new FBI headquarters in Maryland, which was projected to cost $5 billion and not open until 2035. On its face, this seemed like a reasonable decision. Cancel an expensive construction project and use an existing building instead. But the details revealed typical Patel showmanship over substance. First, the Reagan Building was already occupied and would require significant renovations to accommodate FBI operations. Second, the Maryland project had been planned to consolidate FBI operations and provide modern facilities designed specifically for law enforcement needs. Third, Maryland officials immediately sued the Trump administration, claiming the decision violated congressional appropriations and contractual commitments. Most tellingly, Patel's announcement said nothing about his promise to convert the Hoover Building into a deep state museum. That had been forgotten, revealed as the empty rhetoric it always was. Patel hadn't accomplished his stated goal. He'd simply found a way to spin a bureaucratic facilities decision as a personal victory and claim credit for accomplishing what no one else could. The FBI workforce greeted the Hoover Building announcement with cynicism born of experience. By December 2025, career agents had learned not to take Patel's pronouncements at face value. His tenure had been characterized by big talk and small follow-through, media appearances and operational chaos, personal aggrandizement, and institutional degradation. The Make-A-Wish nickname had spread throughout FBI field offices nationwide. Agents used it in dark humor to cope with their frustration at seeing their agency turned into a vehicle for one man's ego. "What's on the director's wish list today?" became a common joke. Private jet to his girlfriend's concert? Another BMW? A jacket with more patches? But beneath the humor was genuine despair. The FBI was facing real threats: terrorism, cybercrime, organized crime, espionage. These challenges required focused professional leadership. Instead, they had a director who cared more about his media image than mission accomplishment, who spent taxpayer money on personal luxury, while the Bureau shed nearly 2,000 positions, who demanded notification of arrests so he could pose for cameras while agents did the actual work. The comparison to previous FBI directors was stark. Robert Mueller, who served from 2001 to 2013, was known for his austere work ethic and refusal to engage in political grandstanding. James Comey, despite his controversial decisions, maintained focus on the Bureau's investigative work. Christopher Wray, whom Trump had forced out to make room for Patel, had defended FBI independence and professionalism, even when it cost him politically. Patel represented the opposite of that tradition. He was the first FBI director in modern history who seemed to view the position primarily as a platform for personal brand building rather than public service. His background as a Trump loyalist, podcast host, and author of conspiracy theory-laden books had prepared him for media combat, not law enforcement leadership, and it showed in every decision he made. The December 2025 report from FBI agents and analysts detailed the cumulative damage of Patel's first year in office. Beyond the jacket incident and the luxury spending, it documented a pattern of political interference in investigations, retaliation against agents who questioned his decisions, and prioritization of media appearances over operational readiness. The report noted Patel's obsession with social media and his lack of experience that left him unable to effectively manage the Bureau's complex operations. Current and former FBI officials who spoke to media outlets painted a picture of an agency in crisis. Morale was at historic lows. Recruitment was suffering as potential candidates saw the politicization of the Bureau. Experienced agents were retiring early or seeking transfers to other agencies. The FBI's reputation, already damaged by years of political attacks from both left and right, was being further eroded by a director who seemed to confirm every negative stereotype about the Bureau being used for partisan purposes. And through it all, Patel remained focused on his image. The FBI windbreaker, the BMW motorcade, the girlfriend flying on the government jet, the demands to be on camera for arrests, the social media posts, the luxury and the vanity, and the performance art of being FBI director without actually doing the work of running the FBI. The MakeAWishDirector nickname would follow Patel for the rest of his career. It captured something essential about his approach to leadership, treating a critical government position as an opportunity for personal wish fulfillment rather than public service. And it raised a question that troubled FBI professionals, members of Congress, and national security experts alike. How long could America afford an FBI director who cared more about his jacket patches than protecting the country? By late December 2025, speculation was growing that Patel's days were numbered. Trump had initially defended him, but the president's patience with subordinates who generated negative headlines was famously limited. Conservative media criticism was mounting. Republican senators were making careful statements about Patel serving at the pleasure of the president. Washington code for, "We won't defend him if Trump decides to fire him." The jacket incident had become a metaphor for everything wrong with Patel's FBI, prioritizing appearance over substance, demanding personal accommodation during critical operations, and displaying vanity that embarrassed the professionals who worked for him. 3 patches ripped from SWAT team uniforms, a manhunt delayed, an FBI director who cared more about how he looked than how the Bureau performed. In the end, Kash Patel's legacy wouldn't be measured in arrests or convictions or threats prevented. It would be measured in the damage done to an institution, the erosion of professionalism, and the transformation of America's premier law enforcement agency into the personal playground of a man whose greatest wish was to be seen as important and who had been granted that wish at the expense of everyone who actually cared about the FBI's mission. The Make-A-Wish director had gotten everything he wanted: the jets, the cars, the jackets, the cameras. America got an FBI director more concerned with Velcro patches than protecting the country. And 38,000 FBI employees got a boss who treated their agency like his personal reality show, with himself as the star.